Because it's still early and because he is a vigilante, which means he takes the law into his own hands. I mean, if you were in a city and there was a guy who dressed up as a bat and showed up out of the shadows and sometimes confronted those people and beat them up because he felt what they were doing was wrong so that he could sort of put the fear of God in them about the crimes that they're committing, I think we would wonder, well, gee, that guy sounds a little dangerous. He's not yet the vision of the character that he becomes, where he becomes a symbol of hope for the city. He's earlier in the trajectory, and so they're afraid of him, frankly. He's kind of a growing legend. I think there are some people who are wondering, does he exist? How exactly does he exist? And that legend is building day by day and has been since he made his first appearance about 1.5 years ago as we were in year 2. So yeah, the public is afraid of him. I mean, that's one of the things I think that he will confront in the course of the story, and that Rob has to sort of deal with in playing the character, which is the idea of how he's perceived.
So ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a brand new The Batman video. You guys wanted part 2, and I just want to say thank you so much for the overwhelming support and just kind comments on part 1's video. I mean, this is what I love so much about making these videos, is that we all love to kind of nerd out and speculate and theory gather together, I suppose. And from this very comment right here, literally everything you say is pure guesswork and speculation. As I replied, that's literally the whole point to these videos. These videos are us all coming together, just talking and hyping our excitement up even more about the upcoming Batman. Everything I say is purely guesswork and speculation. Yes, but no, but yes. This is also based off, like, trust me, I've studied this Matt Reeves clip of which he talks and spits the scripture of his own vision for Batman again and again for quite a long time. I've studied that like a freaking university exam, and I like to think I have a bit of Batman knowledge. So, yes, you guys ask my opinions on this stuff, but that is, yeah, the whole point in terms of where I can hopefully see some things going, what I kind of want to happen personally, what I think could happen properly in a theory-wise thing, that make no illusion. Like, this is what this video is. It is just fun and games, and I hope you guys enjoy part 2, because I've got so many more questions to go. So it looks like there may very well be a part 3, but if you guys want to see that, then you'll have to let me know down in the comments as well. Technically, this is like, what, part 5, 6, 7 maybe, because we've done a lot of these in the past. Just want to say very quickly as well, if your comment isn't in this video, do not get upset or angry, because there will hopefully be future parts where you can get your questions and theories and ideas for the upcoming movies featured in one of these videos and for me to talk about them. And of course, go ahead and like the video if you do go on to enjoy it, and make sure you subscribe for all major updates on the Batman and bonus videos just like this. But let's start with question number 1. Once again, Leo Hallen saying, what are the chances of us seeing the League of Shadows again? Do you think we could perhaps see Bruce getting frisky with Talia? So, okay, hold your horses. So, no, I don't think, well, what are the chances of us seeing the League of Shadows again? I can't obviously rule it out because there's some people like to point out I don't actually know the answers, but yes, obviously I don't. But I don't think we're going to see the League of Shadows in the trilogy unless it's in a kind of way where it is surrounded in Bruce's training in the past. Who knows what Matt Reeves might give us to that. This is Batman Year 2. I actually wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't do much to flesh out the background, because I think that is all being negated a little bit. We're not necessarily going to see the Wayne's deaths again. If we are, at most, it'd be like a strike of a camera where Bruce just has a thought and then like there's a little fragment of a memory that plays by as quick as I click my finger just there. Same thing with something like League of Shadows. I don't expect us to see something like Batman Begins level League of Shadows. Don't think that. And as for like Talia, just no. That is not, remove Talia from this. That's not going to happen in this. I am very confident about that. Catwoman, Selina Kyle is going to be Bruce's main bae of the trilogy. Now, question 2 from Dancha Popper. How many suits do I think that Robert Pattinson's Batman will have by the end of the trilogy? And what do I think the role of Penguin in the first movie will be? And you sneakily put 3 questions in there. And who's my top choice for Joker? Okay, let's see how this goes. So how many suits do I think Pattinson's Batman's gonna have? Like, this is hard. I've spoke similar things about this before in previous videos. I can basically confirm too. How can I confirm that? It's goddamn obvious, that's why. If they're gonna make 3 movies, you're telling me they're not gonna make another suit? Of course they will. Now, as for 3 suits, that's where we have to, like, speak about it a bit more. It's very possible. It is very possible. I think this all comes back to our talking and discussions about will there be another suit in this first film, because there's leaks, there's speculations that go down those avenues so much. It's kind of, there's some things in there that make sense. For example, when Bruce is trying to disarm the bomb around Gil Coulson's neck, for example, and then it blows up, his head flies off. That's not spoilers, by the way, it's in the trailer. And he gets blasted back. You could, like, lots of people arguing, oh, this is when the next Batsuit's gonna come in. I still want to argue, yeah, he got blown back by the shockwave, but that doesn't mean his armor's been completely peeled back steel style, like completely crippled. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I do 99% believe that he could get another suit in the first film. I do prefer that he would be wearing this first suit for most of the movie, and if I had this decision to make, just reveal the next thoughts on the upgraded suit at the end of the movie, where like Bruce is talking to Alfred saying, hey Alfred, like, yeah, beat the Riddler, but look what I've been working on. Something like that. I really like this first suit, honestly. There's very, very, very few changes I'd make. Bottom line here, before I ramble anymore, most amount of suits that they would have in this trilogy, I think, is 3, but I do think it could be 2, but you could argue there could be other types of suits that Matt Reeves might surprise us with in the film, like more of a tactical suit or a stealthy kind of thing, who knows there. But ultimately, I think the Batman 2022's first suit will be the main suit for the first film, to most people's surprise. It would be cool if we get another one, but I don't want to put all my money on that bet. I just wouldn't. I don't know why. But not that I think that we won't get a second suit, because of course we will. As we go throughout the trilogy, like in the second movie, you would literally expect to see a second suit, or like a proper second suit, because we've had the whole first movie. Batman's really coming into his own, on top of the fact that he's been coming into his own for 2 years prior to this moment. So yeah, for sure we'd get another one, possibly with a chin strap and other upgraded aspects. But as for a third suit, we're gonna have to wait and see. The role of the Penguin in this first movie, as I've kind of been over in previous videos, I think he will kind of be, he's not quite the Penguin as Matt Reeves says. For example, I might play a clip right now.
I guess the one thing about the Rogues Gallery is that it actually, in a weird way, is the origins of a lot of our Rogues Gallery characters. So like, Selina isn't Catwoman yet. That's actually part of the journey. Oz is not yet the Kingpin that he's going to become. He's the Penguin, in fact, doesn't like being called the Penguin. And the Riddler is just emerging for the first time.
So I think there's a very high chance that with the death of Falcone in this first movie, how do I know that? I don't know that, it's just an idea, but there'll be a power vacuum. There'll be a vacuum that Penguin fills the void with, and he will become the Penguin. He hates being called the Penguin at the minute, but like, just like where Batman is at the beginning, like everything in Gotham's at the beginning, it needs to still branch out. Penguin will own and hone that name of the Penguin, fill the void of power that Falcone left, maybe, and then he will, yeah, truly rise as freaking Penguin in Gotham. So I think his role in this first movie could be, yeah, he's got a reputation, yeah, he's handling possible operations on behalf of Falcone, like in the trailer where we saw them at that kind of docky area, wherever it was, I can't remember off the top of my head, but Batman shows up and they're shooting at him, and then we see Oswald trying to escape and saying, this guy's crazy. So yeah, I think like he's doing stuff on behalf of Falcone there, possibly. But yeah, main point, he will get bigger. This is the thing, a lot of people asking me questions of, okay, but like, what about the end of the movie? Where will Batman be at? How would he have won? Yes, in a way, after defeating Riddler, but I think there's gonna be kind of like trying to make your way into this room. Imagine trying to make your way into this room forever. You think that's it, you've got somewhere finally, but then when you enter that room, there's like the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe kind of thing. Imagine opening the wardrobe, and then there's a whole other world out there of crap that you need to deal with, and I think that's what Pattinson's Bruce Wayne is going to realize. Not that I don't think he already realizes it, of course he does, Gotham's Gotham. But this is where you tie into the theories of Gotham's corruption, how he's going to learn that probably his family is a part of that. You're a part of this too. How am I a part of this? You'll see. So there's going to be all of that. He's going to have to reconcile with that in his head. And then, yeah, just other villains, other crap to deal with in Gotham. Hence the other door within the door analogy that I just gave. And who's my top choice for Joker? Trust me, I don't know. I'm very picky. I'm a very undecisive person. So I'm really gonna have to brainstorm on that one. I might even do a whole separate video for my top picks of who I truly think could play him. Let me know if you want to see that down in the comments. Next question's from Brandon Kinney asking, when do I think we will get another trailer or teaser? Now, this is kind of a hard question to answer because you never know really what they're going to plan to do again this year. For example, DC Fandom worked out pretty well, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's another DC Fandom, because not only that, as we all know, with these, SDCC, not everyone is bringing everything to, like, big conventions like that anymore quite often. Just in the worlds of other things as well, like gaming, everyone's holding their own little conferences, if you will, and DC Fandom was something that worked out reasonably well, and they could do another thing this year with something like that could include some Batman coverage or another teaser. Obviously, the Batman 2021, as it was originally known, was meant to come out October this year. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something major around then. But then again, this movie is now finished filming. They're in post-production. It's all going to be put together now. So in theory, they could release all kinds of things at any time. Like, they could just release a picture of Pattinson in the Batsuit just going like that next month if they wanted to, or even a scene. But, that's not exactly how things work. So my best guess is near full is when we're going to get a probably another big teaser. So September onwards, who knows? Maybe in the summer before then we could get something more, but it would just be surprising to get like another 2.5 to 3 minute trailer, if you know what I mean. Which, the more I think back on it, not that I need to think back on it to realize this, it's just insane we got what we did from Matt Reeves when they had only shot like, 25 to 30% of the film, or 30 to 35%. That's insane, especially with how well put together that trailer was. I'm just fanboying out now about the trailer we've already got. Imagine. Oh, okay, look, I need to contain myself, but can you imagine what the next trailer is going to be like? Like, seriously, guys, it's going to be insane. So yeah, long story short, because I always drag these questions out, probably full. If I had to put my money on it, full. Hopefully another DC Fandom event where they'll announce upcoming information on the Batman and Shazam! Fury of the Gods and Black Adam, things like that. Around about there. Anything before September/full time, I think we'll be lucky. But you never know. They might put out little bits and pieces. So Elite/Sebastian says, do I believe that the Riddler knows Batman's secret identity and will exploit that knowledge by affecting Bruce's personal life throughout the film? So this is a hard question to answer, and it may be, some of you may be thinking like, wait, Boba, no it isn't. But I've done a whole video on something like this. I think it's when I went into the Batman ego stuff, or maybe it was something else actually. Either way, at the end scene, we have Riddler saying, you're a part of this too. And Pattinson says, how am I a part of this? And he says, you'll see. Now, this can be debated and speculated upon a billion different times. Does that mean he knows who he is? If he's saying you're a part of this too, if he says that to Batman, let me put it this way, really rational, logical. If he knows Batman is a part of this, how would he know that Batman's a part of this without knowing who's under the mask? Just because that doesn't make sense to me, because I've seen some people say, yeah, but it doesn't mean he's talking about Bruce Wayne and that the Riddler knows who Bruce Wayne is if he's saying you're a part of this too. He could just be talking about Batman. But my opinion on that is, okay, he could be saying the Batman is a part of this and how he wants him to, like, help. I don't know, it just feels like it's lacking so much context. If Riddler doesn't know who Batman is, how does he know that he's a part of anything larger? That's the only thing I kind of struggle to subscribe to with that. So I always kind of leaned a little bit more, all without being fully pledged to this idea, that he kind of maybe does know who Bruce is. But, like, sometimes the Riddler or other villains out there don't care about the identity and don't want to expose him. It can just be like, I want you to figure this out yourself, Bruce. And as we can all kind of figure out here, the Riddler isn't about necessarily killing Batman. If anything, he wants to utilize Batman. That's why he's writing letters to him saying to the Batman, giving him codes, giving him little teasers to the larger corruption in Gotham, all up until the point of where maybe the Riddler is saying you're a part of this too, could mean that he knows Bruce Wayne's family, Thomas and Martha Wayne, or at least one of them, were a part of the larger corruption in Gotham. One of the, top dogs in the Gotham crime, top elite families, Court of Owls style. I know I'm not necessarily saying Court of Owls, but you get why I'm going back and forth there, right? Because, yeah, Batman could be a part of this too, because I guess he just wants Batman to figure it out, and that is all that line could mean. But then you're a part of this too could also mean Riddler saying, oh, I know you're Bruce Wayne, and yeah, you're a part of this, but I'm not going to spoon feed you, Bruce. You need to figure this out you'll see. And that's how, I don't know, so that's kind of where I'm bouncing back and forth between the whole time. Jack Beckham says, you think we'll get to see a scene of Batman driving into the Batcave from street level? Such a small scene would be so awesome. Yeah, very good question, just because we need to find out where the cave is. We've all got ideas about that. We've had scenes in the trailer of a bike entering like a cemetery. It would be, I came up like with this idea of what if one of the entrances to the Batcave was near the Wayne's mausoleum or something like that. I'm not saying he literally goes into, it's like, hey mom, hi dad, in your little freaking caskets, and then goes down like this little, I don't know, tunnel. I'm not saying it's as morbid as that, but it would be kind of cool, just like the poetry that Bruce is kind of carrying in this movie, with like several different aspects that drive his purpose to be Batman. For example, one of them being the theory behind the symbol, being linked to his parents' death, and several other little aspects. It's like, oh, what if one of the entrances is near, I don't know, where his parents are buried, and that could be like an underground tunnel network to the Batcave. But yeah, I think we will, like, long story short here with your question, will we get a scene of him driving into it? Yeah, we have to. And I don't think it will be kind of cheesy, kind of 90s, all like going through a waterfall-y kind of thing. Not that that's a bad, necessarily cheesy thing. It's just if you want to really realize this with Matt Reeves' vision and do it in a cool way that isn't necessarily far-fetched, and problems that kind of come with just going into the Batcave on a street level, you could argue it's like, why doesn't anybody else see that? If any police are in pursuit of Batman in his Batmobile, why aren't they noticing him going through this certain area? That's all stuff you have to bear in mind. But I think Matt Reeves will come up with a unique and interesting idea that will allow both classical kind of Batman entering the Batcave to happen whilst making it kind of realistic and grounded at the same time. Such a small scene would be so awesome, as you say, Jack Beckham. And I believe we will get it. I really do. And I really kind of hope it is linked somehow to maybe where his parents are buried. I've got a good feeling about it. I don't know why. I could be wrong though. Next question's from AK. Are you worried that the villains would not live up to their full potential as they are written in the comic books, especially since they're in the early stages of their criminal career? No, believe it or not, I'm really not remotely worried about that. If anything, I kind of subscribe to this idea a little bit more. Now, we have heard it teased here and there that the Rogues Gallery are kind of more or less out there already. Like, that's kind of been leaked or teased and rumored. And it is shown for, like, the Riddler kind of being out there. But then, like, as the way you're phrasing this, that doesn't mean, like, he's the Riddler with the cane and the question mark suits and stuff like that. I don't think this is really what Reeves is going for in his vision. And I think that's fine. We may even have the Joker out there in Arkham Asylum already. Like I mentioned last video, that could be a possibility. But it isn't necessarily the way we know it to be in those source material comics, which I get where you're coming from, but that doesn't, I don't necessarily think, make it inherently something that won't make them live up to their full potential, because this whole vision, I think if you get on board with it from the very foundation, it's Batman Year 2, and we even have Penguin out there who doesn't even like being called the Penguin, but he's very comic book accurate Penguin. So, like, we've got all these kind of in-between stages, I feel, to these villains that I really like the idea of, because the Gotham TV show did this, and say what you will about Gotham, as I always say, but that's one thing I kind of liked in how, yeah, Batman, you know, brings out the villains in certain ways, but also the villains are brought out by Batman, as we know. But in this, it's kind of like a hybrid between what Gotham did and how Bruce kind of rised up to be Batman because the villains were already out there. Well, how did it really go in here? Because Batman's in Year 2 when this movie starts. So what villains were out there when he first came around? I hope to get little contexts like that from Matt Reeves, maybe Andy Serkis. Like, just like what some of you have asked in some of these questions, maybe he's faced other villains before this. Maybe we're just going to get a line from Andy Serkis in the Batcave saying, oh, just like when you face off that crazy guy with the Venom mask or something. Do you know what I mean? Something like that. That would be really cool. Not that I've expected him to fight Bane before this, by the way. That was a bad example. But I don't think that just because they're not necessarily fully fledged who they are in, I guess, representation and actually physical appearance doesn't negate that they will be at their potential in the movies that we see these future villains in. I think it's going to be a really cool foundation for these characters, even though some of them have already been established or could already be established, just like what I mentioned with the Joker, maybe already being out there and disfigured, but in Arkham, because he was behind the drops that Gotham Health Centers or Health Department is, you know, reaching out to all the citizens about. It's layered, it has potential still, but yet it isn't, and it also maybe even lends room for even newer villains to come. For example, we might not even have Harvey Dent being Two-Face. That is one thing I would really love to see movie. Yes, I know Nolan did it, but I feel like it could be done even better, and I wouldn't mind seeing it again in this, and that is Harvey Dent becoming Two-Face. It could even happen because one of the loose inspirations for this movie, alongside Batman Ego and a bunch of other comic books, is The Long Halloween, which is where Harvey gets disfigured with a bunch of acid within the very courtroom that he's in. And that would be really cool. That could be like a cool thing. But maybe, yeah, that's where you could start arguing. I could imagine people commenting saying, that's too many things going on, like so many different things. So we're going to have to wait and see. I would love Harvey Dent to come in after the death of the current district attorney in this first installment, where the Riddler literally puts a bomb on his neck. Maybe Harvey comes in after that. But yeah, I could ramble about this for freaking ever. Now, LIT Comics production says, throughout the Batman trilogy, how would you want to see Bruce grow as a hero, but as a person too? What are some of the challenges he will have to overcome being Batman and being Bruce Wayne at the same time, and how do those intertwine? So I feel like I went over this a teeny bit in my last video with the very clip that I played from Matt Reeves, just, you know, that where he says some of the lines with like how he's far from perfect, he is this, he is that, and he doesn't even, you know, there's this shadow side to himself, something that he doesn't even know, like all of that stuff. That is very much so going to be a bit of figuring out that Bruce is going through in this first movie. I could talk about this forever, but let's maybe tackle some of the sides that I don't address a lot, and that's Bruce Wayne. So I think Bruce Wayne will have quite a bit to learn for his future reference and his future character, and that is something I think people have pointed out as well, like Bruce looking in the church very angrily at the Batman card on Gil Colson as he's freaking out with a bomb around his neck. Some people may be like, that's kind of obvious, right? Especially with the bruises on your face. So I think maybe Bruce is going to blend during his time in public to realize that he can't be so blatant with things like that. This is like a minor nitpick, but it's true. Like, the Bruce Wayne persona and the Batman have to be established to be very different. At the moment, it looks like Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne is very deliberately, in his infancy of his Batman career, not really making much of a differentiation between both personas, the duality of himself. He seems to be in Batman mode almost when he's in Bruce Wayne mode, which he needs to separate. Now, I'm not saying that's going to introduce scenes like Christian Bale's Batman buying the hotel, or should I say Bruce Wayne, and then swimming in the lobby. Maybe that we might see some moments like that, but I think maybe this Bruce Wayne's going to be a bit more classier and well-behaved, perhaps, but he's still going to have to do some things to differentiate the idea of him being Gotham's vigilante. But as I echoed before as well, I think we're going to get a lot more Batman than Bruce Wayne in this film, surprisingly, but that at the same time isn't surprising when you actually look at it in terms of what's right in front of our noses, and that's because the movie's called The Batman. Now, you would maybe expect, hey, yeah, we're going to get a lot of Bruce Wayne. I actually think it's going to mainly be a Batman character study, and Bruce Wayne's going to be the afterthought. So, you know, on top of the cliche kind of criticisms of like what Batman's going to have to learn, like, there's obviously a lot of what he's fighting for here on the face value with Riddler and stuff, but he's got to learn and unfold a lot of the hidden stuff that's been kept away from the public eyes of Gotham to do with the corruption, and that's going to really, I think, make him go for a revelation, without repeating myself from my last video too much, that is going to make him maybe even question himself, but he's going to carry on, though, as Batman. But I think once he learns maybe that mum or daddy has been linked to this, that's going to make him go through a bit of a crisis, maybe quite the existential one. But he'll come through the other end. It'll give him more conviction in his mission, just because maybe his parents weren't necessarily who he thought they were. They were to him, but maybe they were like the good part of the corruption, if you know what I mean. But it's like, if you're in Gotham, even if you're good people, you can't help but dip your toe a little bit in that corruption. You just can't. Maybe it might be something like that, but he's still got to carry on and remember them fondly, I'm sure. I think he's going to realize this criminological experiment, as Matt Reeves puts it himself. First of all, it's not having the intended effect that he wants it to have. Like, that's confirmed. And then, as Matt Reeves said in that clip as well, that's when the murders start happening. So he's got his whole arms full. It's, oh my God, what's going on? It's going to really push him to the limits psychologically. I think that's what those scenes are with the red in the trailer, where he's punching something like the wall and you see the bat cowl on the floor. I think those are like those inner maybe monologue moments where he's letting out his rage, his vengeance, you know, like everything in him. Batman's an angry guy. We're going to see that thoroughly explored, I think. And so, yeah, I know that was a bit of a messy answer, but all of that plugged at the same time in this movie, it's going to be something to see. JLR19 asks, could we see cameos from important characters in this movie that could set up a sequel movie like Lucius and Harvey? Very good question. I've always wondered to myself about Lucius, just because I can easily see Reeves going along the route where, as we know, for example, up until this point, I don't think Lucius has been involved at all in the Batsuit, the Batmobile. That is all 100% done with Bruce Wayne and Alfred. I think we can all agree on that, can't we? That it's very makeshift, his own kind of project. But that doesn't, yeah, as you're kind of putting into it now, discount that we could still get Lucius for the second or third movie. Maybe it might only be for the third movie, and that's where we get the more technological suit, maybe. But there's something that instinctually makes me think we're still not going to get Lucius. I don't know why, I just feel like it's very much going to be relying upon his own expertise and what he can pull up with anything he can, whether it comes to other suits or other gadgets, other vehicles, not just the Batmobile, but think about the other larger expanded Bat stuff that we could see. So yeah, I'm not ruling out Lucius Fox. I just think that Reeves might, if he was going to do it, you'd be lucky if he introduces him in this first film as a cameo, even as a cameo. It might be in the second film, and then he might have a bit of a rapport with Bruce Wayne. By in time for the third film, he's like, I know you're Batman, let's build you a better suit than these other two you've had in the first couple of movies. Maybe, but Harvey, I think Harvey's more of a likely thing, because Harvey can just be one of those GCPD cops. And you know what, I'd be kind of surprised if Reeves doesn't introduce Harvey, or maybe on about Harvey Dent, I don't know actually. Harvey Dent is obviously what I've spoke about so far. I would love to see that happen. This could come after the current district attorney, Gil Colson, bites the dust through the explosion. And that's when, you know, that makes Harvey Dent the youngest attorney in Gotham to become the district attorney. That whole kind of stuff, that could happen. But Lucius is the one I would love to know your thoughts on, guys. I think Reeves is going to stick to Bruce in that big-ass Batcave he's got, making his own stuff. But yeah, maybe after some time he'll get the more R&D type official bloke to implement his own ideas. So Darius Harris says, with Riddler seemingly going after corruption, I think the reason he's going after Batman is because the Wayne family was a part of the corruption. This is where I say I don't necessarily think he's going after Batman. He wants to use Batman as his own personal talent, his own personal guy who can, funnily enough, Riddler's going after corruption, as we know, but he could also use Batman to, like, think how good it would be if there's another one of you going after corruption, but it's the Batman. If you could use him as your own wind-up toy, because funnily enough, he may say he might not help you, but if he finds out he's a part of the corruption himself, you might not even have to ask him to help you kind of figure it out. I think it's going along that route. Sorry to interrupt the freaking reading out of the question. But as you were saying, I think the reason why he's going after Batman is because the Wayne family was a part of the corruption, maybe one of those families who abused their wealth and power. For example, the Telltale Batman, exactly. This is why, you know, it can be done. He knows that Batman is Bruce Wayne and thinks Batman is not the noble hero he presents himself to be, and wants to expose Batman Bruce as well. How likely do you think this is the case? I think some aspects of that are true, but maybe not others. So, for example, I don't necessarily think, as I was saying before, that he's going after Batman in terms of how you say, like, he sees Batman out there fighting crime and this guy's not as noble as he puts himself up to be because I know who his parents are and he comes from a corrupt thing. I don't think it's like that. I think he sees Batman out there and he sees this guy who has no idea where he comes from. And that's got to be the revelation. I'm not saying this is how it's going to go down, but in terms of this line of thinking with these theories, so to address these theories, I think it's going to be the situation where Riddler wants to enlighten Bruce Wayne with his heritage and how it is a part of Gotham's corruption and how ironic that is because you are the Batman fighting corruption and hey, guess what? Mommy and Daddy were a part of that. I think Riddler wants to technically use him and help use him to help uncover it, and maybe that will help him in his larger exposing mission of the corruption of Gotham anyway. But that doesn't mean that Batman's still not going to stop him if he gets his hands on him. But I think there'll be a point where he's teasing Batman so much and Bruce so much with that he's a part of this that he's got to want to find out what the Riddler has on him, that he's like, well, how am I a part of this? Tell me. And that's going to be a big thing. I think one of the main villains of this film is not only going to be the Riddler as this blatant antagonist, but one of the biggest villains for Batman to overcome is the realization that his family may have been involved in this larger corruption to Gotham that ties back centuries. This epic corruption, as Matt Reeves puts it, and how does that link back to my family? I think that's going to be one of the biggest villains for Batman. Him coming to terms with that is going to be a really hard thing. So yeah, some slight edits in the way you phrased that with the ways I said, but something along that. I don't think he's going to use Batman. I don't think he's going to expose Bruce and kind of use him that way. I think he wants to, I think he's having more fun with, hey, Batman out there, I think you need to realize what I know, and I'm going to kind of tease you with that along the way, and maybe you can help me actually expose this larger thing through realizing that you're a part of something like that. I don't know. Next question. So Antoine 7000, how closely related to the Long Halloween story arc do you think this movie will be? Not as much as people think it is. I think some people think that this is a straight up Long Halloween adaptation. That's literally not the case. If anything, I think it will adapt this a shite ton more, like Batman Ego, because it's all about the psychology of Bruce Wayne, and I think that's going to be touched upon too much, well, not too much, a lot in this movie. Whereas the Long Halloween, yes, you have the murder holiday, and we've got that animated movie coming out, and you could argue the Riddler's murders are reminiscent of that, and we're going to get Halloween scenes in this movie, because as we've seen from set photos, we've got plenty of people dressing up in like a Superman costume and an Amazon-esque costume, which, you know, infers that there's, they could just be Easter eggs, but obviously there's theories coming out of this saying, oh, there are other characters like Superman out there, but that doesn't mean they're going to be in this little bubble of Gotham. But I'm ranting about a whole different thing right now. So the Long Halloween, there will be aspects of it, of course, and especially with some of the casting characters that we've got in this movie, but I don't think it's going to be as Long Halloween as everyone thinks it is. Long Halloween is about this mysterious murderer who goes around killing people on the holidays, and other than that, and yeah, little aspects with certain characters that we've got in this movie, I don't think they're going to take too much out of it. As I said, there's multiple stories that influence the Batman. And Matt Reeves is the first Batman movie. So I don't think it's going to be as much as everyone makes it out to be. So if you hear some fan just saying, oh yeah, like the Batman 2022 is like straight up basically the Long Halloween, that's not the case. If anything you want to read, as I said, you want to read this, and I've done a whole video, by the way. If you've got to this point in the video, I recommend checking out my Batman ego theory kind of, it's like a theory video, but I also get into this story and how it will be very explored by the movie. And for crying out loud, Batman Ego is something Matt Reeves really references a shite ton more than Long Halloween when it comes to, you know, making his movie. And maybe I'm showing a clip around about now.
What's one deep cut comic fans might be surprised to see has inspired the Batman?
You know, for me, because I wanted to get into the mindset of the character and I wanted to think of the psychology, for me, I think one of the cool deep dive ones was Darwin Cook's Ego. He's confronting the beast that is Batman, and it's kind of, there's a kind of duality. I mean, there's a lot in what, you know, I was trying to do in the story about him confronting the shadow side of himself. The degree to which you have self-knowledge, you're able to understand your motivations, but he's broken, Batman. So while he's doing all of these things for the reasons that he thinks is right and that have a heroic sort of grounding in them, there's also many things that are driven by the parts of himself he doesn't yet know. And so I would say that that kind of sort of psychological Jungian shadow side, that sort of version of it is very much connected to that vision from Darwin Cook, from Ego.
So next question from Almighty. Now this one's an interesting one. Do you think Pattinson will be a good enough Batman, or will he always be remembered as a shiny vampire? So let me put this very simply. Do you think Pattinson will be a good enough Batman? More than good enough. Pattinson, as said by Nolan and many other very experienced people in the field of the entertainment industry, is saying Pattinson is one of the greats right out there. And he is. He is thoroughly exceptional and has a mad range with his talent in terms of movies.
And the thing about Robert Pattinson is he's an incredible actor. I feel like the work that he's done in the last, I don't know, 6 years has been incredible. Like a friend of mine made a movie called Lost City of Z, and Rob appeared in that movie, and I was like, who is that guy? He had just such charisma, and Rob in the movie has this incredible beard, and you're like, who is that? And it's Rob, and Rob in The Rover, and Rob in Good Time. He is like a chameleon, and he's just such a gifted actor, and he's been working on his craft in this really incredible way, and he also happens to be a tremendous, passionate sort of fan of Batman the way that I am, and so it was an incredible thing to be able to connect with him and to share our excitement about the character and to work with him. I mean, you know, he looks like Batman, but more than anything, he has the soul of someone, I think, that can play a Batman like you've never seen before.
So the people who say, oh, he's a sparkly vampire, look, with all due respect to you, like, seriously, I mean that. I really do. But you are close-minded. You are so close-minded. And I guarantee that you actually haven't seen one of his many other movies since, look, just because it's like, imagine if you were Pattinson, right? After the Goblet of Fire, you get into Twilight. You got into a big thing that kicked off just because you play a character which was a teenage heartthrob, and then out of that became, you know, a bit of a stigma around Twilight. Does that make you a bad actor? No, it just means you're a part of a thing that is kind of frowned upon by a lot of people now because it's Twilight, blah, blah, blah. And oh, look, Twilight Boy is now Batman. So, like, just, I wish people just weren't so close-minded. Like, those typical comments that you read. And I don't mean to sound like a Batman or Pattinson shill right now. It's just, if you watch some of his other performances, like Lost City of Z, where he was, like, supporting Charlie Hunnam, or Devil All the Way, was it, with Tom Holland? He was pretty good in that. Good Times. Like, it's just... The Lighthouse, there's just so many examples of where, and they're all playing different types of characters. And to people saying he's skinny or something like that, I'm sorry, I just don't get this as well. It's like, A, he has worked out, he just has. And even if he wasn't as thickly muscled as you want him to be, even if you put armor on me, right? I'm going to use me, I'm a scrawny example. If you put tactical gear pads, the bat breastplates that were metallic, I would look a lot hencher than what I am. It's just, I don't think people realize when people work out, which Pattinson has, but like even if he kept the frame that lots of people are accusing him of having, like, oh, he's not muscly or whatever, if you put him in that bat armor, look at him in the trailer. That is a frame of Batman of which I see in some of the graphic novels I've got up there, and like the New 52. Batman isn't always hulked out. He just isn't. That may be your vision, but look at plenty of Batmen who are more slender framed. And sorry, by the way, I'm not projecting any of this frustration at you. It's just your question made me think of it. So do I think that Pattinson will be a good enough Batman? I arguably think, right, listen to me. I arguably think that Pattinson could very well be the definitive Batman. And I am not shitting you there. I mean it. And I'm going to make this the last question. Harrison Jolly says, you see the Batman runtime on Rotten Tomatoes is said to be 2 hours and 24 minutes. Also on the topic of Rotten Tomatoes, what is your prediction for the Batman's tomato meter score? Massive fan, by the way, boss. Thank you very much, sir, Harrison. Glad you're enjoying the videos, man. So yeah, I saw that. I don't think that's true just because it was on there. I know what you mean. So, oh crap, is that the runtime? I think that's just like a placeholder because think about it. Right now it's on the cutting room floor. Post-production, scenes to be included, extra scenes, maybe taking some out. They don't have a proper runtime right now. It's just, that might be an aim of the runtime they want to get to. That could be it. What's my prediction on the tomato meter score? I really don't know, other than what I was saying earlier. I think this movie will be received very well. Just the absolute conviction in Matt Reeves and his vision behind it. I think you guys, as you said in my last video, you forgot that DC fandom clip and now you see it again and it's like, wow, he really is locked in. Warner Brothers, something they don't always do, as you probably heard in recent news with the Snyder Cut and all of those Variety and Vanity Fair pieces and whatnot, they're letting, for once, Matt Reeves, a director, have a lot of his vision. So there's not much studio interruptions here. That's, otherwise, like, Matt Reeves basically wanted to walk if that was going to happen. So they let Reeves have it. So I think it's going to be a really solid film. I know that's so easy for me to say in maybe like a shilly point of view. Like, I love this and I want it to work. But when I try and remain objective, and when I say objective, I just mean like without bias here. Like without bias and looking at this objectively without bias, I think everything has a green light. Everything is green-lit to be like done in the smoothest way, in the most careful way, the most curated way that Reeves wants to set it up to be as his perfect Batman starting point. So yeah, I think it will be very high up on the tomato scores. But then again, with those critics, you will always have someone at the end of the day who may see or poke holes somewhere. So it could be like high 80s or something like that, at the very least. And yes, there are plenty more questions, but I'm going to end this video here because it has been recording for a long time and I need to get it out today. So other than that, everyone, I really hope you enjoyed this video. I know you guys really enjoyed well, it's not really part one. As I said, it's like we've done quite a few of these now. The previous Q&A thing. So I hope you guys want to see more of these because I will be doing more of them. Obviously, especially when we're getting more trailer stuff, we'll be doing these videos based on the new footage we get. So I really appreciate you guys sending in your support and just enjoying this with me. I love talking about it with you. And if you got to this point in the video, of course, I would love for you to leave a thumbs up on it because it really does help share this video out a bit more. And of course, if you're one of the real ones, prove it along with your comment in the comment section down below. Put at the beginning of the comment, hashtag King Matt Reeves. As I said, off the top of my head, random, but just do it, and I know which one of you. I would love heart every single one of your comments who do that. I read every single comment, so make sure you leave them. Expand upon the theories I said, expand upon the theories I read out, and what I put on top of that. That's how it goes. You guys know how it goes. And also let me know if you want to see part 3. But that is everything, I believe, other than the links in the top pinned comment is where you can follow me on Twitter, join my Discord server to talk to me personally about this stuff over voice or text. And I have other links as well to Patreon where you can support me. There's a join button on this YouTube channel if you want to become a member and get an exclusive Discord rank as well as other features. Check it out and maybe support the channel. But thank you so much for watching. Hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you members of the Bat family in the next video. Goodbye.